If you feel like your fills sound bad, not musical, and you're not sure how in the world you're supposed to stock hundreds or thousands of fills in your head for instant recall in a song, then today's lesson is for you. Without learning this simple exercise I'm teaching you today, you may continue to struggle with fill creativity, playing songs well, finding your unique voice, and having fun on the drums difficult. But don't worry, because today I'm walking you through this fail-proof fill creation framework step by step so that you can have fun creating on the drums. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out with me today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that they can nail songs and become the drummer others want to jam with and have in their band. And hey, if you're new here, I have a free gift for you. Even if you're not new here, I have a free gift for you nonetheless, especially if you're a beginner. This is my 30 days to 4-way rock coordination PDF e-guide. So if you want to be able to play anything you hear in your head, like play the ideas you hear in your head and just flawlessly execute them with all 4 limbs, you've got to have coordination. This guide helps you do it. With coordination, everything on the drums is easy and fun. Without coordination, everything is tedious and everything is a struggle, and it takes a long time to learn new material because you're having to teach it to each individual limb. But master the coordination and everything seriously gets easier. This guide's gonna help you do it step by step. We've got all these individual little lessons and exercises, and even if you don't read notation yet, you'll catch on quickly because there's play-along recordings. And so this is pretty fail-proof. And so grab this. Even if you're a total beginner, this is going to help you so much with building that communication between your limbs that allows you to play whatever you want to play and have a blast on the drums. So totally free gift for you in the description below. All right, on with today's lesson. 2 things that I have heard over and over again in some form or fashion from students and from many of you who have completed surveys that I've sent out when I ask about big drumming frustrations. Here they are. First one, my fills sound bad and not musical. And also, how in the world am I supposed to stock so many fills in my head? Like, how do I keep all these ideas in my head? These are 2 frustrations that are voiced over and over again. When I ask, what are your biggest frustrations? When I send out a survey to my email list and I ask you that, these are things I hear so many times. And it's such a common struggle. But you know what the secret is to this whole frustration of how am I supposed to stock all these ideas in your head? Here's the secret. You don't. Because you can't. Nobody can just stock, this endless library of fills in their head. It just doesn't work that way. You can't do it. You don't have the capacity to do it. And so we have to find a better way. And thankfully, there is a better way. A student of mine was recently dealing with this and struggling with fill creation and fill execution. And he felt like he couldn't come up with unique ideas. And then the ideas that he came up with just weren't coming across well. And so it was just the all-around struggle with fills, and it was driving him crazy. So I gave him a helpful framework that really helped him out a lot and kind of gave him a new way to think about fills and a new way to approach practicing fills and generating ideas. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. I think this is going to help you out a lot. So here's kind of how we can sum this up. The shifting toms exercise will auto-generate some cool fill patterns for you, but more importantly, it will give you the freedom to create compelling, unique tom fills of your own to use in songs. So it's kind of the twofold thing where it's going to give you the technical know-how to be able to just play whatever you want to play here and create musical ideas, but it's also literally going to just spoon feed you some things you can start using right now. So this is a big win in the short term and in the long term. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Here it is, the shifting toms exercise. Be sure to grab the notation PDF because I have every bit of what I'm going to play for you notated out, and so that's going to be super helpful to you. Even if you don't read notation, just grab it, go ahead and pause the video, download it, and follow along while I'm playing because this is going to drum notation is so simple. It's so logical and commonsensical, and if it makes sense, and you're going to catch on if you watch me play and you see what I'm playing and you're following along with it, and so you're going to catch on quickly. Grab the notation PDF. It'll help you out a lot as your visual companion that you can download for free and take to your practice room. So here's how this works. We've got a couple parts to this, but kind of the fundamental part of this exercise is super simple. We're just going to play alternating 16ths on the snare, so literally just very simple, right, left. But then what we're going to do is we're going to play these accents on the toms, and we're going to shift the accents. So we're going to first accent beats. So that means 1 E and 2 E and accenting the beats. Then we're going to accent the E's. So that's right after the beats. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. Then we're going to accent the ands. 1 E and 2 E and. Lastly, the uhs. 1 E and 2 E and. instead of just playing those accents on the snare, which you can do, and that might be a good way to start, we're going to play them on the toms. So that means anytime we're playing an accent on a beat or an and, it's going to be played by the right hand. That means we could do it on the rack tom or the floor tom. I'm going to do most of those on the floor tom. So if it's a right hand playing an accent, I'm going to hit the floor tom. But left hand, it's a lot easier to go to the rack tom with the left hand than cross over. We're not going to do unnecessary crossovers. So anytime we have an accent on an E or an we're going to play that with the left hand right here on the rack tom. So beats sound like this. Just like that, one E and a, two E and a. E's will sound like this, one. And the uhs will sound much like that reaching over here. So I'm just going to play through the exercise for you. What we want to do is play this at 70 beats a minute. You can go even slower. I will never argue with slower, but don't go faster until you've got this nice and tight, because what you want to make sure is that you're hitting the toms in time. It's kind of tricky to hit an E or an in time, especially with that left hand if it's your weak hand. And so make sure you're just staying relaxed. Remember that this whole time, all you're doing is playing right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. It's that simple. And you know, the joke with drumming is that if you can play right, left, right, left, right, left, you got it. And there's a lot of truth to that. It's funny, but there's a lot of truth to that because so much of what we play is based off of singles, whether it's one hand just playing singles and maybe left hand filling in some space, adding ghost notes. Great topic for another lesson. Or it might literally just be alternating singles like this, and so many fills can be built from this, and we can create really cool, unique sounding musical fills just with accents and different orchestrations. And that's kind of the theme of where we're going with this today. So here's how this goes. I'm gonna play through this for you, playing the different accents on the different parts of the beat. We're gonna go at 70 beats a minute. And so on, back around, and we can continue repeating it just like that. And so very simple, nothing crazy here. Of course, you could add in left foot timekeeping if you wanted to. You could add in quarter notes on the kick drum, but for now, we're just talking hands. We just want to get used to reaching over and playing these toms in weird parts of the beat. And kind of here's a why behind this. Here's the insight that we're hopefully gaining as we practice this and learn this. Interesting fills aren't created by playing a bunch of notes. They're created by interesting dynamics and orchestration. So the idea here is that, you know, we don't have to add any more notes than we already have. We're just playing right, left, right, left, right, left. But by creating dynamics, so accents, by having different variations in volume, that creates some rhythm and some melody in the bunch of notes that we're playing. And then moving them around the kit makes things so much more interesting. And so a lot of times the lesson here is that you can take a simple sticking that never changes and just move it around the kit in weird ways, and it's going to sound kind of interesting. And when you can learn to get intentional about it, which this exercise helps you do, and I'll show you more of what you can do with this, then you can create very cool melodic, just very musical ideas, literally just with the singles. But hey, we're not done yet. So another part of this, and this was something I specifically had this particular student I was working with focus on, because what he was having a hard time with was integrating space into his playing. And that's a really critical part of good drumming. Good groove, good fills, it's the using of space to our advantage. Because without space in music, we don't really have rhythm, right? In order to have a rhythm, we can't just play a whole bunch of notes, we've got to have space. And that creates tension and release in musicality. So here's the next way we're gonna play this. Once you've done that first step, I want you to do the second step, where we're now going to play what I'm just calling 4-note fills, but they last an entire measure. And we're essentially doing the same thing we just did, but we're removing the snare. So now we're only going to play the tom part. So that means our example number 1, this would be kind of a boring fill, but stick with me here. Example number 1 would be 4 quarter notes on the floor tom for a measure. So our fill would be just that, 4 notes. But our next one, remember we're shifting it, so our next one is the rack tom on the E's. 1, E and 2, E and 3, E and 4, E. Suddenly this gets a lot harder than it seems at first, because we're not filling in the spaces with anything. We're having to feel where that E is. 1 E and 2 E, which is super weird. It's challenging your ear because you're hearing what feels like a beat, but it's on the E's and you got to keep it right there. And then we also do the ands, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and then the uhs, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and So do it with your metronome at 70. What I'm going to do here, just to give you a little bit of a listening anchor, I'm going to play quarter notes with my left foot on the hats. So that's going to be our anchor since you're not hearing the click that's in my ears. That's going to be our anchor, and then I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So we'll do 2 measures of beats, 2 measures of E's, 2 measures of ands, 2 measures of uhs. Just like the first version of the exercise, all we've changed is we've removed the snare. And so on. Of course, we can continue repeating that as long as we want to. Spend as much time on that as you need to, because that is deceivingly difficult to do exactly in time. But here's the deal. If precision is a big thing on the drums. We need to be precise in our playing. That's a big quality that separates the amateur sounding drummers that are just a mess from the professional sounding drummers that are tight. Precision. And precision isn't just being able to play, a basic groove like that locked together. That's important. Precision is also being able to play one note exactly where that one note needed to be played. Or in this case, 4 notes exactly where they needed to be played. Maybe they needed to be on the E's of the beat. Can you, with one hand, just play 1 E, 2, and have it locked in? That's tough, but if you can do that, that's going to help you out a lot with precision. Kind of a big insight here is, if you want to get good at precision, don't focus so much on playing a lot of notes in time. Focus on playing very few notes in time. Because it's one thing to sit here and practice your 16ths and be able to play those with a metronome. And that is important. Do practice that. But that alone is not the absolute best thing to help you with precision. If you want to get really good with precision, practice playing, instead of a lot of notes in time, practice playing very few notes in time. You could even say, all right, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have the click going, and I'm only going to hit the rack tom on the E of 3. 1 E and 2 E and 3, 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. Can you do that? Can you get that left hand to play only that one note in the entire measure on the E of 3? There you go. That's going to help you out a lot with precision. Now, we got one more bonus variation of this exercise for fun. Of course, if you're struggling with the last 2 variations here, the original one, our variation, make sure you've got these down first. Go as slow as you need to. Spend a lot of time on those. But once you've got those down, here's our final bonus one. This one's a lot of fun. Play dotted 8th patterns starting on various parts of the beat. Now, if you're like, Steven, I have no idea what a dotted 8th pattern is. That's okay. So a dotted 8th pattern, long story short here, in a nutshell, a dotted 8th note is equal in value to 3/16. So if we're playing a 16th based pattern, what if we were to play an accent every 3/16 notes? So it might sound like this. I gave us a quarter note here just for reference. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. So it kind of creates this cool metric modulation feel where it's almost like we're doing triplets, but they're not triplets, but they're groupings of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then it has to reset because there's 16 and we can't, evenly divide 16 by 3. So we're doing these groupings of 3, accenting every 3rd 16th note, and it creates this really cool feel. You get that kind of jungle toms feel. If you're a church drummer like myself, if you play modern worship music especially, every Sunday you play so many songs where like the groove is that kind of stuff right there. So common, and it's all based off of that dotted 8th kind of rhythm. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. So maybe you're already playing some stuff like that. Maybe you're ready for this. Our final bonus variation here of the exercise is where we're going to go back to our 16ths on the snare, but we're going to create these dotted eighth note patterns on the toms. So the first one will start on the beat. So we're going to play 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. It ends on 4, restarts again on beat 1. And if we're playing the accents on the toms, it's going to sound like this. That simple. You don't have to do left foot quarters yet unless you're ready to. I'm just adding that for frame of reference to make sure you feel that quarter note pulse. So I'm going to play these with the click at 70 beats a minute, and we're actually going to do 3 versions of it because we can shift this on the beat also. That's the whole point here, to shift things on the beat. So we can start it on beat 1, like I just played, but we can also start it on the E of 1, which is really weird. We can also start it on the and of 1. And so if we started it on the of 1, then we might as well also start on beat 1. So starting on the of 1 or beat 1 is the same thing, if that makes sense. So we have 3 variations. We're going to start on the beat, we're going to start on the E, and then start on the and. So here they go, back to back. And now here's the version starting on the E of 1. And lastly, our variation starting on the and of 1. So that's another really cool variation to practice when you're ready for it, because at that point, let's think about everything we've done here. So we've practiced playing shifted accents among 16ths, and we've practiced orchestrating them in different ways. We've worked our precision by playing just those accents in random spots. Plus we've done these dotted eighth patterns. So that means in theory at this point, you can kind of play any sort of rhythm onto the toms off of the snare, right? I mean, logically, if you can play the 16ths on the snare, and we've practiced hitting accents in every possible random place on the toms, that means you can then take any of these patterns, and some of these alone might make for good fills themselves, or you can take this whole framework and start to create your own interesting ideas. So here's just a couple of things you might start coming up with as you mess around with this. So much you can do, and not to mention this helps you with train beats. If you're trying to get into playing train beats, this is your ticket to get there. When you add in the kick to this exercise, adding kick quarter notes underneath anything we just did, that's going to give you that coordination ability to then play whatever accents on top of that, which really comes in handy with any sort of train beat. You can see how there you can create melodies on the toms. You can even create a call and response kind of thing between the toms and the snare, which, by the way, this is beyond the scope of this lesson, but if you're trying to craft a simple drum solo, a really great way to make a simple, compelling drum solo is to generate a call and response just between your drums, because that's what makes a song interesting when you've got some of that going on between instruments. Well, you've got multiple instruments at your disposal right here, so you could create a melody on the toms and then respond to it on the snare. So you could play doom, boom, 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 ba, ba, da, da, ga, 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 boom, 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 blah, 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 boom, boom. And so it's like the tom is saying this thing over and over again, this statement over and over again. Then the snare is responding with some sort of ga, 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 ba, 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 da, something random. And this whole thing is literally just built from alternating sixteenths. All we're doing is throwing in accents and building off of that simplicity, which is pretty cool. And so I hope you feel encouraged that you can do this. So what are you now able to do with all of this? Well, 3 big things that are hopefully pretty obvious at this point. Number 1, create fills rather than recall fills. This gives you the ability to create. You've got the framework in place, the technical know-how to create, plus you've got some straight up ideas fed to you by these exercises that are there in the notation PDF. Go download it, go grab it, it's free. Take it to your practice room. So that's a big deal. Then 2, feel like a musical drummer with a unique voice. Wouldn't that be great to feel like a musical drummer? You have your unique take on things because you can create. You don't just regurgitate other people's stuff. This is such a common thing I hear from students. Like, I feel like I'm a fraud. I feel like I'm boring. I feel like I'm just repeating everything I've heard. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Find a great drummer and repeat what they do and you're going to sound good. But I know we all want to be creative and create our own stuff too. This helps you do that. And lastly, 3, really there's more than just these 3 things, but we're trying to sum it up here. 3, have the ability to use space in your playing, which creates melody. And that's what separates boring drumming from drumming overflowing with musicality. We were able to create melody there simply by accenting, by adding in accents, and by orchestrating those accents in different ways. And if we were to take what I just played a minute ago, the whole doom, boom, doom, 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 boom, bop, we could remove the extra snare notes from that and incorporate into that the same challenge we faced in the precision exercise where we were just hitting the tom on the E's or just hitting the tom on the ands. And so then you could play something like, practice playing like that too, which is kind of a lot harder because you don't have that glue of the 16ths and that motion established. You're just having to make sure you hit things in time. And that is also excellent practice. And that's somewhere you can go with this as you gain that ability to get each limb to actually play on its own, independent of the other limbs in time. And that's a cool benefit of building coordination. And that's something that's going to happen as you practice this. And speaking of coordination, be sure to grab that 30 Days to 4-Way Rock Coordination Guide, because as you build coordination, all of this stuff becomes easier. With coordination, it's like you have superpowers on the drums. Without coordination, you're stuck, everything's difficult. Simply put. And so grab the guide, work on your coordination. It's going to help you out a whole bunch. So, hey, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this has been a really valuable lesson to you, super actionable with lots of good stuff for you to practice this week and going beyond this week. But hey, question for you as we go. What is your bigger fill struggle? Is it coming up with the fills or is it executing the fills? Sometimes if we're honest, it's both, but a lot of times one of these is the bigger weakness. Is your weakness just coming up with an idea, like, what do I even play here? Or maybe you're able to think of the idea, and you're like, oh yeah, I've got this great fill idea, but it just doesn't happen when I try to play it. Which of those is you? Is it more the mental struggle or is it more the technical struggle? Let me know in the comments below. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great week. Know that as always, you can do this. Stay non-glamorous.